I'm not surprised. Are you? Donald Trump insists on making things worse all the time. So the fact that he replaced Kristi Noem with Markwayne Mullin is like, I could have predicted exactly that. One of the many things that Kristi Noem is criticized for is for cosplaying. She likes to wear uniforms and to carry things, certain tools that she doesn't know how to use, clearly, unless it's for things like putting down a puppy because she doesn't know how to train a dog. But now we've got Markwayne Mullin, who pretended to be a veteran on TV just a few days ago. Markwayne Mullin, this big tough guy, fake cowboy, talking about how you'll never forget the smell of war, it's terrible and it scars you, trying to give people the idea that he knows that from experience, but he does not. He's a fake. Stolen Valor. He's a fake veteran, not a real vet. And I know to some people this might feel minor, but to me this is like deeply, deeply offensive. And that's because he's right. You do not forget the smell of war. In fact, that is something that haunted me in ways that I didn't even understand for years. What was objectively the worst day of my life, the most traumatic day, it wasn't just one single experience, but it was a whole day. The worst thing that I ever experienced in my life, it absolutely smelled terrible. And it was a unique smell of war. And I can't and it's tough to talk about, not because I can't talk about it, but because these apps won't like the words or phrases that I would have to use to describe it. But I'll try, because I want people to understand with how veterans connect with this particular form of memory that can really, really deeply affect you. Now, something that I think a lot of people are familiar with is sometimes they'll smell a smell and they'll be like, that smells like my grandmother's house from when I was a kid, or that smells like camp. There are these positive memories. And all it takes is like a little whiff, just a little bit of smell, and it like brings you back. You remember things so clearly. Well, that kind of memory recall, that kind of flashback, re-experiencing these things, can happen with bad memories too. And the day that was objectively the worst day of my life, I was at a trash dump in Sadr City, Baghdad, which was kind of a low point in the city. So all of the sewage from the entire city, something like 2 or 3 million people, flooded into this area, dried up in the hot sun. It was the middle of May, so it was well over 110 degrees. And the reason that my platoon was called to that location is because the Iraqi police called us for assistance with recovering some people who were found partially buried in that trash dump. And it was my job in the Army, to take photographs of what we found that day. I was 19 years old when I had to do this, and it was something that I could not get out of my head day or night for years. And sometimes I would get a whiff of a familiar smell that would bring me right back to there. I would re-experience the worst parts of the worst day of my life, because that's the way your brain works with memory and sense. So to go from Kristi Noem, who likes to cosplay in uniform, to Markwayne Mullin, who likes to go on television and try and give people the impression that he's a combat veteran, it's exactly what I would expect out of Trump. And the reason that Kristi Noem and that Markwayne Mullin do this is because they're trying to draw from the credibility of people like me, actual veterans who served in combat, and they're trying to borrow that credibility and give it to ICE, an occupying force that is violating people's civil liberties and that is acting as if no laws are applicable to them whatsoever. And that has had deadly consequences. But I want to go beyond just complaining about this online. I want to activate people. On Friday, March 6th, I am going to be working with the Valor Media Network to host a tribute, a live concert with Dropkick Murphys, a tribute to Alex Preddy and Renee Nicole Good. We will be in Minneapolis playing live. So if you're in Minneapolis, I hope to see you there tomorrow. If you want to tune in live, it starts at 1 p.m. Central. Just go to abolish.ice.live. That's where the live stream is going to be, and that's where we're doing fundraising to benefit the local community that's been directly affected by the ICE occupation. So look, let's make the most of this real, genuine outrage and raise some money for the local folks who've been affected by this. DHS going from someone who cosplays as a cop to someone who pretends to be a combat veteran, that is as Trumpian as it gets. But let's take our anger and our disgust and turn it into community action and mutual aid. And let's have some fun with it. Dropkick Murphys Live is a lot of fun. So go to abolishice.live, donate to support the local community, and make sure you watch the live stream.